Man, what a surprise it was for Joshua Kelley week 1, Barry. And Austin Eckler still went off. Joshua Kelley, you see him available in 95% of leagues. He leads the list going into waiver wires this week.
Yeah, look, I mean, the fact is that we're not sure about the availability of Austin Eckler. We're hopeful that it's, but, he was dealing, I think, what was the quote? He's dealing with an ankle thing?
Yes.
Something like that?
Yeah, ankle injury day to day.
Something like,
very vague.
He's day to day, we're all day to day. But what's impressive here is, it's the old Keith Oldman. It's an old Keith Oldman quote. It's not my joke. Look, 45% of the offensive snaps is what Kelley played. His 16 touches, I thought were pretty impressive. He had 3 carries of 10 or more yards, right? Which is tied for the third most of any running back in week 1. The point is like 16 for 91, a touchdown. He looked the part. Austin Eckler for years has talked about that he wants less of a workload, that, because he's a smaller back, he wants less. And so sounds like Kellen Moore heard him and talked about it. Kellen Moore, who obviously used Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard very effectively last year. We've seen him use multiple running backs, even when he has an alpha dog, right? Last year, he had Ezekiel Elliott as the alpha dog, regardless of whether that should be or not. That's what Jarrow wanted. And so the fact is that he was able to work Zeke and Tony Pollard, and both were very effective fantasy-wise. And so I'm not saying that Josh Kelley is suddenly this year's Tony Pollard, but I'm also saying, he's got a lot more value than you thought he did 48 hours ago.
Can he be Samaje Perine?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And obviously, very important insurance running back if Eckler misses any time, whether it's this week or in the future.
Yep. I think the key thing as well is that Kellen Moore just ran the ball a ton against Miami, where, Justin Herbert dropped back 36 times. The team, they ran the ball 40 times, which is crazy. Josh Kelley. And the other thing, too, is that you look at their stats, Eckler and Kelley, and Eckler has a slightly better line, but Eckler broke a 55-yarder, which is always a little bit fluky when you're breaking big plays like that. And look, it was a good run, but you take that out, and Kelley kind of outperformed him.
Now, the thing here with waivers, specifically to Josh Kelley, but just in general, is you're the one that knows your team better than we do, right? And so it's ultimately about what do you need in the moment. So Josh Kelley, to me, is a priority pickup if you have Austin Eckler. Josh Kelley is a priority pickup to me if you're looking for the rest of the season, if you need some running back depth. If you're like, I need a guy this week, Josh Kelley ain't your guy. They play the Titans, which is one of the best run defenses in the NFL. But then after that, they're at Minnesota, doesn't scare you. Then they're home to Las Vegas, doesn't scare you. Then they have a bye. So my point is if I'm in a guillotine league, for example, unlike Blake got cut from ours. We have a show guillotine league.
He survived.
Oh, that's right. He survived. He didn't deserve to. Danielle.
By a hair, he survived.
He should have gotten cut, is what I meant to say. I'm sorry. Poor Danielle. Danielle got cut. But
he started Christian Watson, apparently, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Bold play.
Yes, exactly. Bold play, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for you. At any rate, I'm off the rails here. The fact of the matter is I'm not starting Josh Kelley in a guillotine league this week, even if Eckler is out. But I do think he's going to have value throughout the season, and certainly to anyone that has Eckler on their roster.
All right, let's look at the next one on this list. Kyron Williams available in 94% of leagues. It's not that Cam Akers wasn't involved. Cam Akers got a ton of carries, over 20. Just didn't really do much with them, while Kyron Williams had 15 carries for 52 yards, and most notably the 2 touchdowns there, Jay. I don't know how sustainable that is for the Rams offense, but I think most importantly, Kyron Williams was involved.
Kyron Williams was the guy, and it's misleading because Akers got more carries, but that was towards the end of the game.
Exactly.
Kyron Williams dominated the snap percentage. So, yeah, I think I'd just rather have Kyron Williams over Cam Akers. And, Cam Akers was a guy who was going in, the 60s in drafts, and I think I'd already just rather have Kyron Williams.
Barry, I remember last summer you were saying how much the Rams really liked Kyron Williams. It might be more of a third down role. So we know the staff likes him, and just feels like this year they're more willing to give him the much more significant workload that turned out much higher than Cam Akers, like you highlighted, Jay, in the first 3 quarters of the game. That's what stands out.
Yeah, that's what's frustrating is sometimes, look, the genius is never questioned with me. It's just the timing is always the challenge. Because last year in the middle of the year, I was all in on Kyron Williams. I'm like, I'm telling you, blah, 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 blah. And there's a whole was up and down with Cam Akers. And then over the second part of the year, it was all Cam Akers. And I was like, I really like Kyron Williams, but I guess I'm alone here. And then turns out, and then I bailed on him, and then, and I talked up Cam Akers because it looked like they were all in on Cam Akers. And then it turns out I was wrong. Jay, I should have trusted my genius instead of, Sean McVay, who other people say is a genius.
Yeah, it's like with me how I really liked Daniel Jones in 2019, and I just mistimed it. And by 2022, it finally came around, and now it's gone the other way again.
I'm just going to tell you right now, if they ever invent fantasy football time machine, I will crush all of you guys like grapes. Look, you're absolutely right, Jay, in terms of Williams. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, when it mattered, he was the guy. You know, he got a. Now, he wasn't really involved in the passing game here, but 67% of the team snaps. More importantly, 78% on third downs, 4 of 7 inside the 10. And again, somewhat misleading because they used Cam Akers a lot towards the end of the game when it was out of hand. But I will have Kyron Williams ranked higher than Cam Akers this week for Rams running backs. I think he's a priority add this week. I don't know that you can expect 2 touchdowns every week. And again, as opposed to what do you need this week versus the longer-term season? They play the Niners this week, right? I mean, like, I think it's going to – I think things are coming back down to earth for the entire Rams offense this week against San Francisco. All that said, all the guys we're talking about here is just like, you know, with Josh Kelley, you know, at best he's got – Josh Kelley needs an injury to Austin Eckler to have true full value. Like, I think he'll have some value as a secondary back, but, like, he's not going to be an elite fantasy option unless something were to happen to Austin Eckler. Kyron Williams has that chance. Like, I would argue he's currently the starting running back of the Rams.
Yep.
So anyway, he's of all the guys that are out there, he's the guy that has the largest playing time right now.
Yep.
One of the bigger surprises of the week, not that Kenneth Gainwell was heavily involved for the Eagles offense. We've talked about that for a while, but that Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch. We got to hear from Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni on that after the game.
You know, there was just a number count. I mean, you saw that, you know, I don't ever want to come out of a game where DeAndre Swift has only 2 touches either. And so, you know, we were where we were with numbers and some of the things. You know, our first 3 guys through camp are those 3 guys that dressed. And so, you know, like I said, with Boston, to have 4 backs up when Boston and Rashad, or pardon me, and DeAndre both only had 1 carry, you know, we got to play that number game.
Barry, you should put that quote in your pocket for future use. We were at where we were at with some numbers and other things.
Yeah.
That might work out for you.
I'm gonna.
It's very on brand.
Listen,
yeah.
you know, I feel like that's the kind of, you know, back in my single days, you know, when I would get caught, you know,
single days in East Lansing.
Yeah, the East Lansing disaster.
Yeah. And there was also one night in Buffalo that I don't want to talk about, but yeah, you know, just like, yeah, well, sorry, it was a numbers game. I sort of got caught. Look, the fact of the matter here is, that was a lot of gobbledygook to say, like, we don't like Rashad Penny. Like,
it was very unclear what he was saying, and then he also couldn't say it.
Yeah.
He didn't want to, like, he was just sort of like, you know, just like, yeah, man, you don't like Rashad Penny. Oh. Like I don't want to come out of a game where DeAndre Swift only has 2 carries. Well, you just did, you know, and you won. So
he could have changed that, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, he can say all he wants, but I think they're most comfortable with Gainwell in the system. I mean, he played 62% of the team snaps. What's most important is 50% on third downs and inside the 10. He handled 82% of the team's running back touches. Now, he's dealing with a little bit of a rib injury today, so we'll see. He didn't participate in today's walkthrough. We'll see if that becomes serious. It's worth noting because they are the Thursday night game against the Vikings. So, you know, short turnaround here. So maybe he doesn't get as much work on Thursday night because he's dealing with a little bit of a rib issue. But it's going to be a committee. Yes, DeAndre Swift and I don't know about Boston Scott. DeAndre Swift will get a little bit more run, but if you're asking me who's going to be my highest-ranked Eagles running back this week, it's going to be Kenneth Gainwell, and I think it's going to be for the foreseeable future. It's still going to be a committee, and still the guy at the goal line that I think has the best shot at scoring a touchdown is always going to be Jalen Hurts. But Kenneth Gainwell, who we've talked throughout the preseason about, Connor and Jay, is somebody that shouldn't be available in many leagues.
Yeah, I do think there were some outliers in week 1. Like, I don't think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be out rushing DeAndre Swift 14-1 every week.
Of course.
I don't think Tyjae Spears is going to be out snapping Derrick Henry every week. So a few things to pour cold water on, but Gainwell is definitely the guy you want.
Over in Baltimore, the Ravens' backfield obviously dealt with disaster week 1, losing J.K. Dobbins for the season due to the Achilles injury, and you saw Justice Hill available in 96% of leagues. But I think all eyes with John Harbaugh in his backfield is who else will be involved, and we got to hear from him on Melvin Gordon and the rest of the running back market for the Ravens as it exists.
No, I think that we're good. I like the guys we got. Melvin is going to, you know, he's here for a reason, and certainly didn't expect it to be this quick, but that's why he's here. That's why he wanted to stay here, I think, because, you know, he likes it here, you know, and he likes the offense, and he likes the environment, and he's a heck of a talented guy. You saw him in the preseason. He's a proven back. So I'm very, very glad that he's here.
So I'm sorry, John. That was when you said you're good. You don't foresee looking outside the organization to add a running back.
No, I mean, no, I don't. That's not what I'm looking to do. But if you want to ask Eric what his thoughts are, give him a call.
Interesting aesthetic for the Baltimore press conference. Looks like John Harbaugh's about to break down like a middle school biology curriculum or something. But
right.
that aside,
or they're about to be a spotlight on him and ask him where he was the night of the 12th.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was intense. Yeah,
it does definitely seem like some sort of interrogation room. And
they got to fix that up. Anyway, it's been about a decade now of Baltimore's running back situation. I mean, it's like Justin Forsett, Terrence West. Now we're in the Justice Hill, Gus Edwards.
Don't remember that there was the Kenyon Drake era,
yes,
the
Drake.
Latavius Murray era, Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I mean, ever since Ray Rice, basically, that's the last time they had a really go-to guy. And look, I don't think any of these, like Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, Melvin Gordon, I don't think you're going to be confident starting any of these guys, even in favorable matchups. So we look at the comparison in Week 1 against the Titans. Justice Hill and Gus Edwards both had 8 carries. Hill gets in the end zone twice and sees a slightly higher snap rate. But I mean, Matthew, do you have a read on this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be annoying, and it'll be kind of a committee, and obviously Lamar is going to be involved as well. If I have to pick one, give me Justice Hill. I know you sit there and go 8 rushes for 9. Justice Hill only 8 for 9 versus 8 for 32 with Gus Edwards, who's a much better north-south runner. Gus Edwards is, but for me with Hill, it's the passing game usage, right? So after J.K. Dobbins went down, Justice Hill played 52% of the snaps. He played 6 of 7 downs on 3rd and 4th down. He got all 3 touches inside the 10-yard line. He played all 3 of those snaps. So I just feel like there's a better – touchdowns are so fluky, you know what I mean, that I feel like there's a better chance that Justice Hill, because he's got some passing game usage, feels like they'll mix and match in terms of the rushing, but at least Hill also has some passing game usage. But, by the way, Harbaugh's right. Melvin Gordon is fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Why he's there.
It's why he's there. Melvin Gordon is and there's a chance, by the way, I would not be shocked if, we're talking a week from now about like how Melvin Gordon led the backfield. Because again, Melvin Gordon is a complete back. Like he is somebody who is proven, he can do pass pro. He's a good pass catcher as well. He's good between the tackles. A little bit of a fumbling issue. But I wonder if maybe he was, for lack of a better way to describe it, because he was the most similar to J.K. Dobbins, and he's also the newest guy there, so that's why maybe he didn't make the squad initially. But because now that Dobbins out, maybe they feel like, so we'll see. But if I'm picking one right now, give me Hill over Edwards. I do think it's going to be a committee, and I wouldn't spend a high waiver priority or a lot of fab budget on the Ravens backfield.
Let's take a look at, real quickly, some other notable running back waiver targets. These are your deeper league guys on the radar right here. Tajay Spears, Roschon Johnson, Chuba Hubbard, Jerome Ford. And then one of your sleepers from the summer, Barry, Sean Tucker, who ended up making the Bucs roster. Not a good week for Rachaad White.
Second lowest rushing yards over expected among qualified running backs in Week 1 for Rachaad White. So Sean Tucker is somebody I think is really interesting. Jerome Ford, it's worth noting that a lot of his snaps came in the 4th quarter, but he is certainly a great insurance back for Nick Chubb. And the last one on Roschon Johnson there, obviously. He played heavily in the 4th quarter, but he played more than I thought he was going to in Week 1. And there's a path to Roschon Johnson winning this backfield versus Spears would need an injury to Derrick Henry, right? Chuba Hubbard would need an injury to Miles Sanders. To me, the two guys that Ford would need an injury to Nick Chubb. So Sean Tucker and Roschon Johnson in that order are the guys that have the clearest path to winning playing time just because they're good.
Yep.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.